Okay, good evening, everyone. Sir Koila Chandra Bishal is not able to speak anymore because of poor network. So now we'll start giving our guest introduction. Uh, Today is the second day of this webinar, and today's topic is research designing and tools. And today's keynote speaker we have Dr. Joanna Clara Miranda, faculty, Quest International University, Ipoh, Perak, Malaysia. She is the Doctor of Business Administration 2012 to 2018, Victoria University, Australia, and Masters of Business Administration 2006 to 2009, UNITER, Malaysia. She has also awarded Bachelor of Science, Business Administration, Accounting Concentration, San Jose State University, California, USA, 1989 to 1992 with Diploma in Human Resource Management, distinction 2002 to 2004. Malaysian Institute of Human Resource Management. Uh, Had experience include Sanway Business School, Malaysia, Lancaster, UK program, lecturer August 2018 to December 2019, Victoria University, Melbourne, Australia, sessional lecturer January 2015 to November 2017, Victoria University, Sunway College, Malaysia, lecturer 2011 to 2014, Asia Pacific University College of Technology and Innovation, Boutique Jalil, Malaysia, currently known as Asia Pacific University, lecturer 2009 to 2011. So now I would like to invite Dr. Joanna. Please, ma'am, start your speech. Ma'am, you are not audible. Please unmute.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Navrin. I just have one question before I start. Nobody can turn on their video, is it?
No, ma'am. Anyone can.
Because I can't see anybody's face. I only see people's name. Is it okay if people turn on their videos for me to speak?
People are hearing, ma'am. It's okay. You can start.
I can see the very smiley face of Professor A.K. Das. Thank you very much, sir. Can anybody else turn on because I feel like I'm talking to myself?
Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen now. Can you please tell me if you can see my screen? Yes?
Ma'am, it's visible, ma'am.
Can't hear.
Screen is visible.
You can see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
I can see. I think others can also.
Okay, you're sounding very soft. Huh? I'm not sure why. I hope you can hear me loud. I am going to let me start my slideshow. And oh, now, Reen, I can see your pretty face. Okay, I am sorry. I'm going to have to stand because it's easier for me to do this. I speak better when I stand. First, I will give you about a second or two to please read the slide. And it is meaning of no insult. I just want to set a stage for qualitative research. So I'm going to give you a second to read that, please. You're done. Can you please raise your hand? Are you done? Okay. It is no insult to quantitative research. What this is telling us is because the what you call it, the emphasis on quantitative research, people have sidelined qualitative research. So therefore, we are going to look at the importance of qualitative research. And in my presentation, you will see there is a purpose for qualitative research as well as a place for quantitative, and they really belong one after another, if not together. Okay? And topic today obviously is going to be about qualitative research and why I love qualitative research. Okay. First of all, just move this here a bit. qualitative research, when I talk to people, what happens is I get to understand, I get to know why people have thoughts and feelings that might affect the way they behave. Okay, and then I get insights into their feelings and thoughts, which I can, once I collect this information from qualitative data, from speaking to people, I then get to decide whether I want to do another bigger qualitative study, or can I come up with some kind of theory for testing for quantitative purposes. So the study, I've done it at least, recorded at least about 4 or 5 times. Having taken this, I can tell you that it's not easy. It is not easy as running numbers and coming up, because really we have to look into people's mind and try to decide on what people are thinking, or why they, and trying to interpret why they behave the way they behave. And it's very personal to them. And when you undertake a qualitative research, what happens is people are sharing their innermost thoughts with you in a very personal manner. And I think you all know that that is actually very difficult to do. Okay, and me being a very personal person, I know it is very difficult to share. I have, I have, I have interviewed people, so I understand how they feel, because I have also been interviewed in a qualitative study. So I do know how it feels. Therefore, I feel like I get it. That I understand when I'm doing this research. Okay. So what happens here is, in a qualitative research, we're actually exploring, uncovering, trying to describe or understand what lies behind a phenomenon, a subject, something that is happening to people. Most of the time, if you see, qualitative studies came from medical, nurses try to do this, doctors try to do this, and so we have taken it into learning human lives in different aspects, and we have used it for in business and management, in how people feel in the industry, how people feel in the business. Okay, and what it does in a qualitative research, we do it in a naturalistic approach. That means, what I'm trying to say is, we talk to people in their natural self. We meet up and we have a conversation. Okay, and I'm taking all the conversation, whatever I'm saying, it's always recorded for, definitely it's recorded, and then transcribing, and in my interpretive way, I am trying to find out what is happening to this person. I'm trying to decide, and later I will share how the steps are. And the findings are not statistical. They are not quantitative analysis. They are pretty much a lot of data that we have to read and decide. So it does not, the point about qualitative research is, it doesn't assume there's only one version of reality. Today here, I might feel happy. Today here, another person might not feel happy with the same situation. So the reality is not the same. Okay? Qualitative data is not using numbers, but it's analyzing of words, how a person looks, what they say, so you were analyzing the thing that they say, or the transcription of what they have said that we are using. And of course, like I mentioned, it's natural. And our interest is in the meaning and not about the reports. We're not trying to measure relationship as we do in quantitative. Okay, so that's qualitative research. So what do people say? They say that it is to understand beliefs and meanings of people. The research for that, and it's about uncovering what individuals and societies facing or going through. Maybe this pandemic. I did a study because of how students are adapting to online teaching. So it is like uncovering how people feel. And I did a study before this in work meaningfulness among academics, and that's exactly what I did. I wanted to see how they felt about their work meaningfulness. Okay, meaningfulness is different from meaning. We're not talking about money. We're talking about their feelings. So we're talking about how they are looking at the changes in the university. So that was a very qualitative research. Okay, and it's based on my interpretation, because when somebody talks to me, based on my experience and what I understand, I'm interpreting and analyzing. That's what happens in normal conversation, right? And it's very specific point of data collection. I talk to you today. and this is how it is. And then tomorrow, if it's the same subject, it might be different. Okay, so basically, we set our mind to say that people think differently and make sense of the world in a different manner, right? And we are looking at them in their natural way. So we are not comparing them to other people, and we are not trying to generalize it. Okay, we take an approach to see how we understand how people feel. Are we good so far? Yes, no, yes, no? Okay. So it's about, the data is descriptive. It can be a form of interview, observations. Later on, they even added videos, right? It's about holistic approach of the final outcomes, and it's real world, real situation, and it's not manipulated. If you know, when we do quantitative, right, the outliers, we try to remove and rerun the thing. We don't do that for qualitative. What we try to do is, if there's something different, then we want to poke on that and say, why is this different? So that's qualitative, right? And it's unique experience. And I just mentioned a few minutes ago, we are not looking to generalize it. Okay. Commonly, we use ethnography. Ethnography means that if I want to study this community, then I will go and stay with them. That's ethnography, right? And I will observe participants in their real environment, and sometimes over an extended period. Grounded theory is I take all this information, whether from face-to-face interviews or focus, and explore and see what phenomenon and see whether there is a problem, a situation, or a context. And phenomenon, of course, is like I mentioned earlier, is there something that we are dealing with? People are always very familiar with, the phenomenon of going through cancer, a phenomenon of going through some illness, but very seldom they look at their work environment and see that, some changes, whether engagement or meaningfulness, very seldom. So it's rarely or very seldom used in business, but it really has a very good place in business. Okay, so if I do a very quick comparison, the difference between here, and I don't think I need to go through everything because y'all can see it. It's numbers versus written spoken words. Okay, quantitative, you're looking at what you call it, relationship. Qualitative, I'm looking for meanings and new knowledge. Quantitative, you have many participants. In my qualitative, very few informants. And there's a lot of other things you can look. Consensus, I'm seeking patterns. Quantitative person will be looking for value theory testing. I am looking for, theory generating. Okay. In quantitative, it's very important for them to be detached. But in qualitative, because it's an interpretative research, I'm involved. And it's less fixed. And one thing is the difference, a major difference is it takes a very long time to complete a qualitative study. Okay? But yet people like us, we want to do. There are a few things here that I think you all would have seen. You know what case study is. I mentioned ethnographic, narrative. These are the very common ones that I used. So I think you should be familiar. If not, I think you're going to ask me later. So what we do in a qualitative research is we have to collect data, right? Like any other things. So we've got a method of interviewing or a focus group, or like I said, in ethnography, we have participant observation. Okay. We want to take people's views. We want to see their lives as they see it. And normally our questionnaires are either unstructured or semi-structured. Unstructured is like normal conversation I have with you and you talk to me. Semi-structured means I start you off into something and then I hear what you have to say. Most of my studies have been semi-structured, okay? And, it's used to facilitate. We use semi-structured because then we don't have, too broad a topic to deal with. Focus group, you all know, we gather a few people, same way, we give them some questions and everybody starts contributing, giving their points and, probably sometimes like the recent study, somebody said, oh, I can't find these things. And then somebody else says, oh, it's all there. If you can't find it, we don't know what to say. So that's a benefit of focus group because you get to see the pros and cons almost immediately. Participant observation is typically an ethnographic study. So what my friend did was she went and stayed with a group of people. I think she went to Bangladesh, if I remember correctly. She stayed with this group of people to study something specific about them. So that is where participation observation is. So she sees people, but she also talks to people like in terms of, a gatekeeper, because you cannot talk to everybody. They'll only designate certain people for you to talk to. So she had one person to discuss whatever viewpoints that she had. So that's another way to collect data. So after collecting data, we definitely would have recorded, because people tend to talk and talk and talk, right? Then we transcribe the data. That means we take what is inside the video or the recorder, we transcribe, and then we organize the codes into themes and find whatever is connected. I think I can show you. Let me see what's the next slide. Okay, before I do this, I can show you the paper that I did. Okay, so if you can see here, can you all still see my screen? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. So if you see here, earlier on, when I started talking to them, I put in a lot of, notes and things, of what they spoke. So in here, their initial response, right? So I take the first coding, this is what I say when we code, I take the first coding and say compensation and best part of work. So what did they say? So all these people spoke about this topic. So I have recorded this topic under that, right? And then later on, I take this generalized code that I've put in, and then I see a theme. After I collect a few people talking, I see a theme. The theme that tells me that this is what they talked about. Compensation, meaning to say talking about their pay, right? So this is what they came up with. They said the performance management is very poor. So after talking to a few people about their pay, how they feel their work and their pay and everything, generalized code, and then later on I come up to this, everybody says, and the theme is bad performance management or poor performance management. So that is how the coding happens in a qualitative study. Okay, so going back to what I was trying to say is, qualitative is different in the sense that we want to see people's living, and we want to see and understand people's living and their behavior. And qualitative studies appreciates the data that is collected and analyzed without being manipulated. And it helps. This is where, when you talk to people, you find new information. Okay, that is why if you go back to my first slide, it says that so much of emphasis on quantitative, they have not grown the knowledge because they never looked at qualitative. Because when you talk to people in a qualitative study, when you talk to people, what you see is new information coming out. And that new information can be a starter for someone else to run a quantitative study to see, does everybody feel this way or everybody suffering this way? So when we emphasize less on qualitative study, then we tend to be looking at old data and trying to find new information and new relationship with old data. Am I making myself clear? Do you all follow me? Did I ramble up too much? Are you guys okay? Okay. So that is the purpose of a qualitative studies. It definitely helps in developing new study for quantitative research, and definitely adds to topic and surface knowledge that was never thought of. That's all I have prepared for today. Thank you. And I can take questions now, if you have any. Anyone?
You, ma'am?
Yeah, you?
Yes, ma'am. Just want to know about a focus group, ma'am. How it works
Okay.
actually.
Sorry, you were asking what about focus group now?
Yes, about a focus group. How it works, ma'am.
Okay, so what will happen is like the recent study, what we did is we gathered 6 students, right? Majority of them came from the business faculty because I'm in the business faculty, and then my friend was in the social science. So we wanted to know how students in general felt about shifting from face to face to online. So she found a few students and they gathered other students, and I found a few students, and then they all gathered. In all, we had, I think we had 2 groups of 6, so we had 12 people. So we started off the conversation. We gave them, of course, we talked generally first about what to think about this online studies, and we started off that way, and then people started talking about what they felt. So we asked them stuff like, is it okay for you? And then some students started saying that initially it was difficult, we didn't like it, but now we like it. And then other people started saying that I still feel that I want to go to uni, I don't want to stay home. And then other people were like, no, I like to stay home because I don't have to waste money on food and transport. So we actually have a group discussion, which we are recording. Just like if I had a face-to-face interview, we record it. And then later we had to transcribe and do the same process of coding and finding the theme. Did I answer your question?
Ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? No? I think I should stop presenting, yeah? So if no one else, I can stop then?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. It was a very informative, clear, organized, and nicely presented piece.
All
So
right,
thank you
thank you.
so much. Thank you,
Thanks.
ma'am. So we are moving to our next speaker, Professor Dr. Orka Kumar Das Mahapatra, Vice Chancellor, Odisha State Open University OSOU, Sambalpur, Odisha. Professor Orka Kumar Das Mahapatra is the Vice Chancellor of Odisha State Open University at present. Before taking over as the Vice Chancellor of Odisha State Open University, he was working in Sambalpur University as the senior most professor of business administration and the chairman postgraduate council. Professor Dash Mahapatra has over 32 years of teaching and research experience. To his credit, and has over 128 research publications in various journals of international and national repute, 7 books, and has produced 16 PhDs. Professor Dash Mahapatra has served the Assam Central University, Silchar, and the Assam Institute of Management, Guwahati as well, and has already filed 8 patents and has attended over 140 national and international seminars, conferences, and workshops, both within and outside the country. He has visited a host of countries, including UK, France, and Japan, on academic assignments, an excellent teacher and distinguished researcher in accounting and finance, and KIER Distinguished Academic Leader, along with the Best Paper Award in the France. He is kind of repute for the country. He is associated with more than 60 Indian and foreign universities institutions in various forms. So now I would like to invite him. Please, sir, start your speech.
Thank you very much. Greetings to all. The keynote speaker of this evening in India, uh, Dr. J.C. Miranda, who we listened just now, Senior Professor, Professor Mahanti, Alay Kumar Mahanti, the Managing Editor of Odisha Journal of Commerce, Professor V. Sai Prashant, who is the State Coordinator of the Research Foundation India from Andhra Pradesh, Professor K.C. Vishwan, the National Coordinator of the Research Foundation foundation. All other faculty, research scholars, everyone who have joined, welcome to this session. It is indeed a pleasure on my part to be associated with this particular forum, and many thanks to Professor K.C. Biswal who remembered has invited me, and it is an opportunity rather to listen to the keynote speaker as well as probably in the process of interaction to others. I have been asked to really speak for some time on designing, research designing, particular research designing and the tools for social science research. So uh, I may be permitted to share the slide. All right. We have listened to Professor Miranda with regard to the intensity of this social science research, and it is more theoretical, less mathematical, numerical. That's what she was highlighting, and it's really difficult, I think, compared to the quantitative research, where you play with figures and you know, the OR tools. So certainly, it takes a lot of time, as she has rightly said, and also must have a lot of patience. The research scholar need to have a lot of patience, really complete a social science research. However, having listened to the keynote speaker, let me move on to the very basic uh, questions. Well, I know mostly, although this is an international forum, and I think there are a good number of participants from India, and therefore that there is certain reason as to why I project this slide. When we talk of quality, because the very forum itself speaks about no, quality research and designing in social sciences. So therefore, let me start with the quality. When we look for the quality in research, what are we actually intending to? Well, this question, I mean, series of questions that I'm raising that may not be of the international standard, but then there are sometimes, I mean, the questions are certainly there because in certain area it is relevant. So we've come across sometimes, research for degree or promotion, sometimes research for knowledge, recognition, social esteem, and of course for a degree and as well as promotion. Research for innovation and betterment of the society and leaving a legacy, and research as a passion. Now, if we have particularly the research scholars not in the middle age but in the beginning also, sometimes they are in a hurry, so they need something to do and then finally to get a degree and probably to get a job or to get a promotion. So if that I mean, therefore we need to, when we search for the quality, we need to really resolve on these issues or find an answer to these kind of questions that I have raised. So the resolution would be certainly research for knowledge, for innovation, for betterment of the society, for leaving a legacy, and also taking off research as a passion. And degree, promotion, social esteem will certainly follow the prime reasons or the motivations behind the research, and therefore I can put them as the byproducts of a good research. So therefore, what is expected of a good research is neutrality, reliability, validity, and of course, general application of the findings. Certainly, the research scholar, I mean the researcher, cannot be biased has to play a neutral role to find out the facts and figures. And whatever is found, the parameters based on which the research is conducted must be reliable, and the findings must have validity and must have general use. So given that, when it comes to research design, it basically refers to a particular framework, a plan that the researcher needs to follow. And the keynote speaker has already said, in the research design, that, as I said, if it's a framework, then if it is a qualitative research, which depends on basically on the relationship between the collected data and the observations based on sometimes mathematical calculations. We have seen the keynote speakers are displaying certain pictorial information and uh, uh, like kind of a scenario where the data is, I mean, people are sitting in a circle and the information is being extracted. And in case of quantitative research, which is primarily based on numerical data and which requires statistical analysis and interpretations. Now, what we find that often the research that sometimes it is a mixture of both. Even in the social purely qualitative research, also we find some amount of statistical analysis, however small it may be. Even some preliminaries of the measures of central tendency like the mean, median, mode also are used. And these some statistical analysis of even the qualitative data enhances the interpretative value. So sometimes, therefore, we may not be able to really entirely concentrate on, confined to purely qualitative research. Even the qualitative can still become a part of quantitative research and the vice versa. That's what my personal feeling and my own observation as well. So, given that, what is or what are the essentials of a good research design? The accuracy of the purpose, the objectives, why the research is conducted, are projected somewhere that the research has to be for innovation, for betterment of the society, for a better quality of life. And well, I am putting, of course, certainly the pure science, the scientific research is certainly not within the scope of this discussion. So we come to this, therefore. So accuracy of the very purpose for which the research, and of course the types of research, there are like action research, then and many more, of course. Even the keynote speaker also, Dr. Miranda also was trying to show some of them. And then we need to also define the boundaries, the very scope within which we need to operate, because the entire universe cannot be captured and put in the form of a research. And for that purpose, having drawn the boundary, we think of moving to the methods and the techniques that will be following for collection of data and the information. And then the methods and techniques that we'll be using for analysis of the data and the measurement of the analysis or corroboration of the corroboration and validation of the findings. Because sometimes it happens that all that we are finding, the revelations that comes out from the research that I have carried out may also be having a similar implications, and I mean therefore it may also match with the prior research. So if that happens, then a matching of the research findings, the current findings with the prior research work only leads to generalization of the findings. If there is a contradiction, then it calls for further research in different settings, in different situations. And therefore, we need to really corroborate our findings with the prior research. And then, of course, everything has a limitation, so also the research has to have a limitation, and the research has to be completed with a time frame. It cannot really continue for a longer period, because in that case the very purpose for which the research has been undertaken may be defeated, because the significance may, in the process of the research getting late, delayed, the significance may be lost in between. So therefore, it has to be a time-bound program, and therefore, this is what again my own understanding and my own observations and feeling about a good research. That identification of the problems or the issues of the social relevance, that may be local, that may be national, that may be global, and then setting the research questions, and thereafter going for literature review to particularly find out if the several questions that I have raised that has come to my mind, is there any solution already in existence? And that an extensive review of literature is going to really tell us whether such the solutions, the answer to such questions do exist, or uh, no answer for that purpose exists. And in case of several questions that I have raised, if I find the answers, if for that purpose, if I have raised 5 questions and I find answers to 2 questions are already available, then of course I can think of setting my objectives in order to find answer to the remaining 3 questions out of the 5 that I have had with. So the non-availability of answer through prior research to the questions that I have raised is the research gap that we need to really out. Based on that, we need to fix up the objectives, and certainly not necessary that of the 5 questions I have raised, answers to 2 are available, 3 are questions are there which need to be resolved, and my capacity is only to really address only out of the 3 unresolved, I can only address to 2. So therefore, I leave the third one, saying that scope for future research. Well, then coming to the plan of the research, and of course the chapterization and the research plan, how to go about, and of course then the execution, the real carrying out of the research, and of course reporting. Well, first I have to concentrate on the tools and vis-a-vis the design. So I have I thought of putting uh, 2 research work as an example, and the first one that I have guided as as a supervisor of the research, and the second one I have done myself. So the first one is emotional intelligence as a determinant of workplace performance. The experienced people, especially the keynote speaker here, and of course any other professors present, there are many of them are already experienced, so they can easily understand that emotional intelligence, and that is purely a theoretical one, because it's psychological, it relates to psychological behavior of the individual, and of course then how, and that if that individual is working in any organization, then what is the how the emotional intelligence affects the organizational performance. To this extent, this particular research was taken. And then there is another one that I have personally undertaken, is the interrelationship between corporate governance and performance. Well, the first one is actually purely social science research, but there we have used extensive statistical and operational research tools. And in the second one also, it's a mixture of theoretical research as well as research based on quantitative values, figures. So when I said that having set the titles, we for the research, uh, the purpose for that purpose, and then the objectives. Well, certainly we will not have the time to read out all, but however, the first case there are four objectives, and the second of broadly five. And when I said that in the first case, to empirically examine the relationship that exists between emotional intelligence and workplace performance. So there has to be a relationship study. If nothing else, at least a small statistical tool like correlation is applied. Of course, we have gone for using and applying advanced techniques also. And therefore, in a social sciences, I'll be in fact displaying some of the very recently added tools in social science research that I'll be slowly, because I'm trying to build a situation where I can come slowly to the text. Well, now uh, the hypothesis. In the first case, we had four hypotheses. In the second case, I had three hypotheses and 19 sub-hypotheses in the category. And I've listed down the three, the first four, and here also three. And as a sample, I've also listed down at least a part of the sub-hypothesis here. Because a hypothesis certainly is a working relationship that we frame based on literature's survey, as well as based on our expectation of the behavior or the phenomena in question, and then we try to prove it. We go for testing the hypothesis to see whether any such relationship exists, and then moving forward, um, let us go to this, because the idea was to show the designing of the research, and this is a part of the uh, overall design, and it's the broader part of the designing. This is a component as to how that particular work in both the cases has been organized. It is divided into a couple of chapters, and like literature review, in both the cases, one introductory chapter, then the review of literature, then the research methodology, in the first case. Then, of course, the emotional intelligence, the evaluation, the measurement, and the significance. And then the interlinks, the study, like the interlink between emotional intelligence, where I have written EI, and the workplace performance, the empirical evidence, based on the data that we collected and the analysis has been done. Of course, then finally, we draw up the summary and the. In the other case, we have also, like the one that I took up personally, leading to postdoctoral studies or DLIT, is this, that review of literature, the research methodology, and corporate governance, the structure and models, corporate governance, the international initiatives, and corporate governance, the nature of interrelationship, then the corporate governance and the performance, the key issues, and then of course the conformity test, where basically this hypothesis testing was made, and then summary and findings. So the purpose of displaying this is, if there are young researchers, they may get immediately, or they may be able to catch some ideas as to how one has to organize. Okay. Now, uh, this is what the methodology that has been followed. Data source and method of data collection, the sample designing, sample size, determination of the sample size and distribution of the samples, and of course the study period. As I said, that it cannot be for indefinite period, and the tools and techniques which are used for data analysis, explanation of the variables and how they are measured, then classifying the dependent and independent variables, then of course uh, the standard performance measure, as well as the own developed performance measure. I will display how we came up with this particular research, the control variable, the ethical issues, and confidentiality that is uh, required to be maintained, and of course the consent and withdrawal from the investigation, and deception and debriefing. I'm sure uh, 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 the young researchers as well as the experienced one must be also standing by me. I mean, they must be appreciating because ethical issues are always there. Confidentiality, the one who is revealing the data would like not to reveal the name. And or if it is a data collected from any organization, sometimes they say that don't mention the our name for that purpose. And if somebody has given the consent, and then the, say for example, the data is collected from him or her, or maybe through interview, through a questionnaire, but subsequently the respondent changes the mind and says, I would like to quit, I would like to withdraw, and then he or she should be allowed for that. And then of course whatever is found, we need to really again share with them, because maybe at the last moment one might say, having seen the result, one may still say that okay, at this stage I would like to quit. So these are some of the ethical issues when we conduct the research. One has to be very careful, and more so why the validation is needed, because anything that we report, there must be some bias, it must be trustworthy, it must be reliable. And therefore even in the good journals they are asking for access, having access to the data that we have used, because that is how sometimes sometimes data is manufactured. And to I mean it may not be true in some other countries, but in sometimes it is also seen, it is happening. And therefore the ethical issues really do work. Okay, coming to the one that the advanced research, the postdoctoral one that I shared, I have done. Look, the selection of the governance parameters, the sub parameters, and the distribution of the weights. It was not there. It has to be entirely mine as a researcher, and I must also stand by what I have done. The argument that has gone behind, the logic that has gone behind, and the scientific reason that has gone behind, that must be mentioned, so that because the work that I'm doing must be credible, it must have takers, and it must have significance for the ultimate beneficiary. Well, the test of reliability of of the the weightage that I had given, the study period, how did I collect the sample, what was the science behind drawing the samples, the sampling, the industry-wide distribution of the companies. It is a study involving 233 Indian companies. And then of course the measurement of the farm performance, the independent and dependent variable, how do you classify them? And then the test of stationarity, test of heteroskedasticity, test of normality, multicollinearity, and then they taste for selecting the appropriate model, and then tools and techniques used for data analysis. Because look, these are some of the latest addition to the various kinds of tools which are used um, for validation of the data. Out of this, few of them I'll be trying to really highlight. But what happens, I feel, and I feel it makes sense. Look, when it comes to data source and the method of collection, say for example, the first one is primary data. The data has been collected through structured questionnaire, and there were 245 responses which we received in complete form. The questionnaire had two parts. For a questionnaire, set of questions, and they were asked to give the rating for themselves, and then that was cross verified The same thing was shown to their supervisor, the reporting officers, for confirmation. And then, of course, coming back, I mean, forward, moving forward, uh, we had also the measurement for emotional intelligence. Look, the emotional skill developed by Chaudhary and Singh was actually, which had 15 questions were used in this study. And of course, there are 10 different factors based on which the work performance, I mean, the workplace performance was determined. That is about the first one, I mean, with emotional intelligence and the workplace performance. But second one, if you can see also, see uh, the tools. Well, I'll not stop here. I think I need to move forward. We were here. Yes. So, look, this is uh, partially qualitative and partly also quantitative. The firm performance has been determined through quantitative values, and the corporate governance score has been calculated based on qualitative value, but has been then converted to quantitative values. And there are different parameters. As I just said, that there are 233 companies, and the data were collected for 10 years and against six broad parameters. Well, this is an area I'd like to really highlight this. Look what happens when I said that we have used if, the EI, uh, uh, you know, uh, the uh, questions or the statements that we used for measuring the emotional intelligence, which was developed by Chada and Singh, and there are 15 questions. Now, what has happened here is a good researcher and a good research for that purpose, when you look for the quality, must also say if there are any other such tools, questions are available, and if so, who, when, and for that purpose, where it was used, and so and so. This is a chart. This slide shows that there are 10 different other format. I mean, besides the one developed by Chada and Singh, we had 9 more. And as a good researcher, all the 9 has been reported in the thesis. And more interestingly, as you find that you have like different number of questions, which starts from 144 to at least 133, somewhere 121, 65, 48, somewhere 27, 16, and finally 15. So what does it really mean? That look, if I say that I'm using the study or the questionnaire that was developed by X and Y, I am also giving information to the reader that there are also other scales available with different number of questions, and it is free to them. It's like putting all the facts and figure under one umbrella, so that the researcher understands. And then coming to some of the popular and useful tools, as I said, the reliability. Now I'll be moving to this. Now look at the particular work that I did. It is certainly not a forum to highlight what I have done, but the very message that I want to communicate is here, that there are 6 parameters which through which I calculated, I determined the corporate governance score particularly. And of these 6, I have highlighted here 2, that is board structure and the audit committee. In board structure, you find there are again 7 components, and in audit committee there are 3. And of course, I have not taken the other 4, just to show as a sample how and what was done to find out the reliability. Now, having said this, I started giving weightage, and the weightages are given based on both The pilot study, the questions were shown to experienced people in the corporate. They were asked if they are to give weightage, what, how much they will be giving. Was determining the corporate governance score. There is no unanimity with regard to any formula, particular formula or a particular model saying that this is the best fit which gives the corporate governance model. And that is the characteristic of a social science. There is no definite answer to a particular phenomena. There may be a variation with regard. But then we need to be more scientific as possible. So therefore, a combination of quality and quantitative values. Having assigned the weightage, then we need to really see whether the weightage that has been assigned is reliable. And for that we calculate, I calculate the Cronbach alpha and the value, any parameter having values less than 0.7 was dropped, and all these values that we find here, Cronbach alpha value is all above 0.7, and therefore all these parameters that I have taken here are reliable. And look, without checking the reliability, if I move ahead with applying, you know, making the analysis and finding out the conclusion may not be that scientific, because before that these factors must be reliable. So the test of reliability is one of the several techniques which we can immediately apply to social science. And then let us go to another, that is about the test of data stationarity. Now, when particularly panel data is used for analysis, it is necessary to check if the pooled data is stationary. This is because non-stationary data cause spurious relationship between variables, which in turn will lead to distorted results. And if the result is distorted, the conclusion that we draw, therefore the findings that we present will not be reliable. So therefore, this is again another tech tool that we can use. And look again, with regard to the stationarity, uh, uh, there are different, again, techniques available, which I have also written here, that for the six independent and the six dependent and independent variables that I have used in this work, uh, I have tested the stationarity by using the Harris-Javelis test. We call it the unit root test. And what is more important as a researcher that I have reported is, uh, although there are other similar techniques, and I have given a list of techniques, including who has developed and who has propagated such techniques. This is again a quality of good research, I suppose, that if a reader reads, will be immediately able to understand that, okay, there are alternative techniques available, whereas I have used this, the other researcher might try the other one. And when I have used this technique, I have also justified as to why I have gone for this particular technique. So the test of stationarity has been conducted here, and the values are before. I placed the values here, and that is there for the second test that was night. Uh, Come to the uh, third test, that is data heteroskedasticity. And here is the argument. The presence of heteroskedasticity is in the data is likely to minimize the interpretative value of uh, the findings. And therefore it says that, I'll not read the whole through. The present study is based on the large observation of data, and further six parameters and uh, uh, parameters of corporate governance have been taken as the independent variable. So it was therefore felt prudent, necessary to conduct the heteroskedasticity test before proceeding further, to determine whether the data used in the study is free from. So for this purpose, a test was conducted, and again, what is more important here is there are 7 different types of taste available even to test the heteroskedasticity, out of which I have used 2. So this was again the reason as highlight to highlight in one place what are the other available tools available and what I have used. And then the result is here. Well, thereafter, the fourth one, the test of normality. And the results often from normality data are more reliable. The results often from normal data are more reliable than the results often from data which are devoid of normality. It is for this reason we need to check the normality. Of course, I've given all the researchers have quoted who and when, again, it was said and why it was so, and given the above arguments in order to enhance the reliability and interpretative value of the model estimates in the present study, that the normality test was undertaken by using 2 different tests. And now the result is before. The last one, given the time limit, I know, is the multicollinearity test. There are other tests, I have skipped them only to highlight the, again, the other. Fifth one is the multicollinearity test. It's a state of very high intercorrelation or inter-associations among the independent variables, which is a type of disturbance in the data, and its presence makes the statistical inference made out of such is unreliable. So therefore, moving forward, before moving forward, we need to really check in order to enhance the interpretative value. So everywhere, therefore, the question is what I'm doing must have validity, reliability, and of course authenticity. Now moving further, here is how the value, the calculation of the collinearity and the uh, I think I missed. It's all the data that I have used. In fact, I found that they are all free from multicollinearity. So the data I have used is all having high interpreted value. Now, look, there are, because research methodology itself is very vast, and there are n number of techniques available. Every now and then, new types of techniques, new technical tools, statistical tools, and operational research tools are being developed and applied. So, therefore, as a researcher, what is expected is that we go for extensive study to understand what are the different techniques available. Of these techniques, what are useful to me, and of course then again it depends on the objectives, the purpose. So this is one. Other things are there, but I will not certainly extend from beyond this point, because part of that has already been discussed by, highlighted by the previous speaker, the keynote speaker. So I wish to stop at this moment, and would like to invite if any clarifications that I need to offer. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your precious time and space. It was very informative.
Any question from
Hey, Prof, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
My student wants to do this descriptive research. Okay.
Yeah.
She is interested in doing this. So basically, what will she be doing?
What I could not get you properly. What procedure?
What would she be doing? Because she told me she wants to do descriptive research.
Okay.
And so I want to know what should she be doing?
Uh, but it look like if I see here, descriptive design is researchers interested in describing the situation. So when the situation is described, it has to be based on own observation. And if at all the any for that purpose any questionnaire is used, if she is not directly going to the field and getting the information, and it is collected through questionnaire, then the questionnaires must be subject to reliability. The inform I mean the statements that the researcher is going to use in extracting the information must be first validated. Thereafter,
She
the
wants to study about toxic leadership.
I'm sorry, leadership.
She wants to do the descriptive research on toxic leadership. So what would she be doing?
Uh, if Is it that you are asking for the entire, I mean, how to begin and how to end, or
Exactly, because nobody has come up with that, and definitely not on toxic leadership. So I just want to know what is it she wants to do.
okay. I think that needs a more kind of, uh, I can draw a framework for you for that purpose. If that satisfies, I'll draw a framework and send it to you,
Okay, sir.
right?
Thank you.
I can do it. I think I'll share my email, and then I'll of course send you the framework that I think. I'll give the step by step how one can proceed.
Okay, sir.
Right.
Thank you.
Most welcome, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir. So we have another keynote speaker, Professor Malay K. Mahanti. He is the author of more than 7 national level books and present managing editor of Odisha Journal of Commerce, which is a UGC care listed journal and working since last decade. He has produced more than 21 research scholars and have authored more than 60 research articles in national and international journals. He was in different administrative heads like Registrar Ravenshaw University, Controller of Exam Utkal University, and many more administrative positions. His research excellency is very significant in the country due to his visionary innovations. He was also president of OCA and Dean of Management. So now I would like to invite Professor Malay K. Mohanty to give his speech. Please start, sir.
Thank you, madam. The delay which is caused by me, for which I apologize because of some urgent health requirement. I was not present in the initial stage. I just joined 10 minutes back. I couldn't hear to the speech of Madam Miranda and Professor Das Mahapatra. Anyway, I will be starting it with it because I am the managing editor of a UGC care listed journal, which is now the number one in commerce list. The problem which I am facing in correcting or rectifying the articles that I will be discussing, mostly research writings are not from the research scholars, mostly by the research guides and senior faculties along with their research scholars. That is why it is very important to disclose it to the research scholars that while preparing the research article, what steps they should take. There are two types of research writing. One is thesis or dissertation writing for the award of a degree, that is PhD, MPhil or DLit, etc. The other is writing research articles in reputed journals, maybe Scopus, maybe care listed journal or a BDC journal or whatsoever it may be. Research for the thesis, research for the PhD work, that something different from the research article writing. First of all, I shall have to discuss some steps in the research process. In the research process, first you shall have to take care the following things. Number one, I'll be analyzing one after another, but let me disclose or discuss first the areas where they should focus. First one is formulating the research problem. Formulating research problem means points need to be taken care of in formulating a research problem. First is prevention of unnecessary duplication. Many times the same data is utilized repeatedly or the same version or analysis is repeated. It should not be there either in the PhD thesis or in the research articles. Second is the relevance of your research. What is the relevance or object specific you want to do in your research, either through the article or through the PhD? That relevance is to be identified. Thirdly, when you take up a research mostly for the doctoral degree, you shall have to make a pre-study of availability of data. Nowadays, data is available through internet from secondary sources. But when we were doing research, at that time, data was not available. We shall have to run to different destinations from pillar to post to collect data. For example, I have stayed in Calcutta, I have stayed in Pune, Bombay, Delhi to collect the data by handwritten statements, because we shall have to copy it. At that time, Xerox machine, the photocopy machine was not available in those libraries. The electronic typewriter was not available, only manual typewriter was there. So, when to make a research, you first ascertain that for that particular research, for that the objectives of your research, the data will be available to you. If data will not be available to you, entire work of yours will be futile. That is most important. At that time, during our time, 75% of the research scholars were dropped because of this non-availability of data. Nowadays, it is available to everybody, and everybody is copying and pasting it. Data is available in internet. But at that time, it was the most constant, and this now also it is a constant. Then next one is what is researchable in your particular topic. You shall have to see what is researchable. Everybody, you not that whatever you will do that is a research. Researchable thing means you shall have to do something new. You shall have to trace something new which your previous researchers have not traced. That is why we go for the review of literature. That means where they have left, you shall have to start it. There you shall have to see what is the researchable thing. Then come within how many times, within how many hours or years or months you will complete this particular research work for one article or for a dissertation. You shall have to take into consideration the value of time, the reasonable time which you need for that particular assignment. When a scholarship or stipend is granted, they give you a particular time, like 3 years, 5 years, or something like that. You shall have to make a plan accordingly. In which quarter of a year, what you shall have to do, in which year, what we shall have to do, and how we'll proceed. You shall have to make a research plan. This is very important for the research scholars, because Professor Biswal has said me that this should be your speech should be for the interest of the research scholars, not for the senior persons who have already conducted work who are guiding. And then the practicability. There are many research work. It is very difficult or it is very impracticable to collect that data. And it should be ethical. In non-ethical manners, you may collect data. I have seen as an evaluator of PhD theses, I have seen in most of the cases that the data has been copied from different sources and it is not relevant to that particular research. They have collected the data from some sources. The person from who he has collected it has done it for some other purpose, for some other objective. But they have put that data in here, and that is why it is not applicable to their research. So these are the cases for formulating a research problem, to trace out a research problem on which you shall have to make a research. Secondly, regarding the review of literature, I was an examiner of a very reputed institute of India. The total research thesis was 87 pages. But there are my first research guide of Andhra University, his research paper was 850 pages of Andhra University. At that time, now he is no more. But you see, at that time it was 850 in 80s. 1982, I have seen that thesis. But in 7-8 years back, I saw a thesis of 87 pages. There, they never go for exhaustive research review of literatures in the thesis. Only relevant, which is very current and which is directly related to this, are to be put in the research review of literature. Not that from 1950 onwards, you shall have to, or from independence onwards, for 70 years, you shall have to put the research articles which is on this particular topic. It should be preferably within the last 5 years and directly related to your topic, not indirectly via some other means or some, suppose funds flow. He has used fund flow for some other purpose. You have used, you are putting it from your purpose. It should not be. It should not be duplicated. Why review of literature is done? That means to trace where is the research gap, what has been done till date by previous researchers, and what you are going to do this. What method, what was his objective, what was his methodology, what was his analysis process, and what is his finding, and what he has suggested for further research. That is to be taken care of by the researchers while selecting the review of literatures. But they are abundantly giving 60. Some scholars, they say, I have collected 60 research articles in the review of literature. I have collected 141. One of my scholars, he said that he is collecting 141. You are telling that you should collect only 25. Others will think that I am not doing anything. This is not the thing. Which is relevant, which is irrelevant. Those collections were totally irrelevant, and he is not a researcher. He is a copy master. And those who collect research articles pertinent to your research title, which is very close to your research objective, that should be taken care of. What method he has adopted, what was his objective, what was his hypothesis, what is the research process or methodology which he have adopted, what is how he has made the analysis, and what is the finding. Then you can come to and what he has suggested for you in his research. What he has suggested, these are the research gaps, and which I have not covered because of constraint of time or because of the jurisdiction, scope, etc. And someone else in future can do a research on this. That type of topic should be selected, and that those things to be taken care of. Today, 4 hours back, now it is 8 at 4 p.m., the managing editor of Indian Journal of Commerce was discussing with me for half an hour. He praised me like that, your journal has surpassed our journal, Indian Journal of Commerce, your journal has surpassed it. Because we are now looking at the international level with Indian articles, research articles. Why? We want to show that our scholars are no less than the international students. That is why we are collecting articles of that type. Then comes the review of literature, that it should be either narrative or traditional. That you shall have to take care. Because of the constraint of time, I will be skipping, and wherever you will have any problem, you can discuss with me in after the completion of this deliberation or after a few days also. Meta-analysis, theoretical research literature review, metasynthesis, biometric analysis. These are the things which should be taken care of. Which should be taken care of during this particular research. Just a minute, I'm taking just a minute because one professor, Professor Ambika Pati from NEHU is talking. Let me. Ambika, ମୁଁ ଅଛି meeting ରେ କୁହ। अच्छा ମୁଁ ତମ ସାଙ୍ଗେ ଏଇ ୱେବିନାର ପରେ କଥା ହେବି। Okay, bye. Hello. He is the head of department of NEHU Shillong campus. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. We are hearing, sir.
Huh.
We
Then
are hearing, sir.
Okay. Then out of the review of literature, what is our intention to go for review of literature? In the IIT research fellow, they don't mention the research, review of literature in their thesis. Mostly they do not explain it. Because the objective of review of literature is to trace out the research gap. What my predecessors have done, what I shall have to do. And after knowing the research gap, I shall have to select the title and I'll have to go for the research on that particular topic. So then, only after that, we shall have to make our research title and objective of research, and rest of the things will be rest on the review of literature. And just like after surveying the land, the status of the land, we go for construction, etc. Like that, this review of literature is its status. Then we will be coming to developing at the hypothesis. Developing hypothesis, it is in some cases, some scholars have asked me, that testing of hypothesis or developing an hypothesis, is it mandatory for research writing? It is not mandatory for the research article writing, but it is required, not mandatory, it is required for the thesis, PhD thesis. Hypothesis, you shall have to draw the hypothesis. Hypothesis is nothing but your notion, your idea, what you are going to do that, what will be the benefit out of that, what is your idea about the objective, or what will be what you are expecting in after during your finding, etc. So hypothesis is mandatory to some extent in case of thesis writing, but in case of research article writing, you cannot afford that much of space and time in the research article writing, so it is not mandatory. You may give some hypothesis, but it is not required. Hypothesis, mainly it is classified in type 1 or type 2. Null hypothesis and research hypothesis. Considering the nature of problem, objective, the following hypotheses are fixed. Number 1, among them is direction hypothesis. Number 2 is relationship hypothesis. Number 3 is simple hypothesis. Number 4 is complex hypothesis. Next is directional hypothesis, then non-directional hypothesis, then associative or causal hypothesis. These are different type of hypothesis we mention in while discussing the hypothesis. Since research methodology is a very big area, particular part, whether it is hypothesis or whether it is research gap or review of literature, it takes 1 hour for discussion of the entire thing. Then comes the conceptual model designing for your research. Conceptual model designing depends upon the research which you are undertaking and what we are going to do and what is your objective. Then comes sampling design. Sampling design means when you do a research, you cannot take the universe for your research. It is not practicable. That is why you shall have to make some sample, collect some sample. But what is that sample? It samples. What is a sample? That is some examples of the society or of the population which are totally representative, like the members of parliament. He represents for a particular geographical area of a particular state to the parliament. He who gets maximum support from that area becomes the member of parliament from that area. Similarly, sample is a particular number or particular variable which represents that category. So first of all, for this, you shall have to define the population, then determine the sampling framework, frame, then select sampling techniques, how you will collect the sampling techniques, then determine the sample size, how much sample you will take, then execute the sampling process. Sampling process, this is the way sampling also a very big area. Then measurement of scaling techniques for sampling. One is nominal, the other is ordinal, another is internal, the another is ratio based. Then other scaling techniques, comparative scaling techniques are used, non-comparative scaling techniques are used. In comparative scales, we can say there should be paired comparison, maybe rank order, or maybe constant sum, or maybe short scaling. This is regarding comparative scales. For example, when we compare two persons who is taller, if they will stand on a particular platform, same platform, then we can measure. If the taller one is standing on a lower platform and this dwarf one is standing on a higher platform, we cannot make a comparison. Even in case of statistics, when some breaking line is given, 0 to 500, 0 to 530, 0 to 485, there it seems that there is very nominal differences there. But if we will make it from 470, the difference will be like more. So this comparative scales is also important in case of research. Then non-comparative scales, continuous rating scales, or even itemized rating scale, like Likert scale we can apply. Likert scale means when we collect data through questionnaires or through interviews, it is not in form of quantitative or it is not represented in numerics. It is in qualitative form. That quality, how will compare this, how will measure it, how will analyze it, who is dark, who is fair, who is tall, who is short. So in that case, we shall have to convert it to numerics. And for that conversion into numeric, the qualitative data, when we go to conversion into numeric, we adopt this Likert scale. That means 5 to 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is the scale, in which category we give them a mark. This is 5, this is them like 5 star, 3 star, 4 star, 1 star, etc. Accordingly, we give 5 star is having mark 5, 1 star is given 1 mark, and we can make a comparison. So this is regarding Likert scale. Then semantic differential. This is also another way. Or staple. These are the Likert, semantic difference, and staple are itemized rating scales. You can adopt this when you are collecting data by questionnaire or by personal interviews. And the qualitative data can be converted to numerics. Then we can adopt it for some analysis. Without numerics, we cannot make any analysis. Then data collection. What type of data we need for our research is also a debatable question. Whether we should collect the primary data or secondary data, that we shall have to see. There are some advantages as well as some drawbacks in both the cases. Mostly financial data we are collecting are secondary in nature. When we make market survey, we can adopt both. And in some cases for entrepreneurs, potentiality, etc., we shall have to go for direct primary data. So depending upon the topic in which we are going to make a research, we can adopt primary data, we can adopt secondary data, or we can adopt both primary and secondary data. And primary data that is mostly primary data is mostly objectivist, they are quantitative in some cases, and subjective also. They are qualitative in nature. In quantitative data, we make survey data, observation, or experimental data. With these three type of data we collect. And in survey data also, there is also different styles. That is personal interview through which we can collect data. Telephonic interview, we can collect data. By mail survey or questionnaire, we can also collect data. This is how we collect data and where it is suitable, that we have already discussed. Then about the qualitative data, focus group interview, depth interview, or projective interview, these are all subjectivist data or qualitative data collection source. This is regarding the primary source of collection of data. Any researcher can go for any type of data collection, but it must be suitable to his objective, where he wants to get the information or data for the analysis of his research work. That depends upon this. Then secondary data, as I have already said, that is mostly in case of financial reports. Financial report is secondary data collection method through internet, we can collect. Through vision statement, we can collect. Through sales reports, we can collect. Through government reports, we can collect. Or through mission statement, we can collect. Or some other secondary data sources are there from which we can collect data from secondary sources. This is done mostly in case of financial research writing. Then we will be coming to the tools and techniques which we are using for our research. Either for research writing or for thesis. One is journal database. What is journal database? It is database of journal articles, sometimes called journal indexes. They contain who, what, where information about the journal articles. They tell you who published a journal article, on what topic, where to find it in the print or electronic journal. That is known as journal database, where from you have collected this. Second category, second I am explaining it also. What is the difference between journal and database? This question may come to your mind. Database is a collection of organized information in a regular structure, usually, but not necessarily in a machine-readable format, accessible by a computer, while in the other case, while in case of journal, is a diary or diary recorded of a person or organization, like day book. Then, for example, Emerald, Willy, Springer, Sage, all these are the examples of journal database and journal. Now you can understand what it is. Then statistical software. Statistical software or statistical analysis software refers to tools that assist the statistics-based collection and analysis of data to provide science-based insight into patterns and trends. Generally, with the researchers, previously we were using only statistical data, that is correlation or regression or index, all these things are graphing modes. Nowadays, we are not going to that. We are going mostly to some statistical packages like SPSS. You must have heard the term SPSS, but many students, many researchers, scholars, they don't know what is exactly SPSS. SPSS means statistical package, S for statistical, P for package, S for social, S for science. statistical package for the social science. This is a computerized version of language. It is used by various kinds of researchers for complex statistical analysis. The SPSS software package was created for the management and statistical analysis of social science data. Now it has become not exactly outdated, it has become an old statistical tool. It is window-based software. It is absolutely user-friendly for statistics analysis. It is not openly available. It needs license or paid version or in pirated version for installing and running the software in the system. Most of the present researchers are adopting this SPSS package for their analysis of data. Second one is GRETL. GRETL. Gretel. It is an open source statistical package mainly for for the econometrics or time series library. This is used. It has both graphical user interface and a command line interface. This is freely available. Anybody can download anywhere and install it. But you shall have to know the use of this particular software. Most students, they do not know. It is freely available, whereas SPSS is paid. So you can also apply this. You can make, within 7 days, you can learn this. Then third tool or technique is eView. eViews provides sophisticated data analysis, regression, and forecasting tools on Windows-based computers. It can be run. With eView, you can quickly develop a statistical relation from your data and then use the relation to forecast future values of the data. It is also a paid version. It is not freely available. Then comes another tool is Stata. Stata is a powerful statistical software that enables users to analyze, manage, and produce graphical visualizations of data. It is primarily used by research scholars in the fields of economics, medicine, political science, social science, and it is also a paid version. Then come R or R Studio. R is a program or programming language and free software for statistical computing and graphics. It is supported by R core team, R Foundation, the manufacturer of the R Foundation Statistical Computing. It is widely used among statisticians and data miners for developing statistical software and data analysis, polls, data mining survey, poll forecasting, etc. Data mining surveys and studies of scholarly literature database, so that R is highly popular. R Studio is the interface of R. This is about R or R Studio. Then comes LaTeX. LaTeX. L is capital, T is capital, AEX is small letter. LaTeX software is a software system for development of preparation when writing or writer uses plain text as opposed to a formatted text. What you see is what you get. Is the slogan in this. This is word processor. Microsoft Word, LibreOffice Writer, Apple Pages, they use this. The writer uses markup tagging conventions to define the general structure of a document, such as article, book, or letter, In that case, those cases, it is used mostly. And to add citations and cross references, this software is also used. At latex distribution such as text live, mid text is used to produce an output file. Sorry. Such as PDF or DPI is suitable for printing of digital distribution. Then comes the financial database. Financial data consists of pieces of or sets of information related to the financial health of a business. The pieces of data are used by internal management to analyze business performance and determine whether tactics and strategies must be altered. For example, Capital Line, CMIE, Bloomberg, SC Equity, etc. They follow this. Capital Line, what is Capital Line? Capital Line is an online database giving financial and other information on over 35,000 companies. From that, you can collect data, secondary data you can collect, which includes listed as well as unlisted companies. 35,000 companies listed there. Capital Line provides extensive and accurate data on companies which run into over 1,250 data fields. Then similarly, CMI or Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, CMIE, Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, is a leading business information company. This CMIE produces economic and business databases and develops specialized analytical tools to deliver those to its customers for decision making as well as for research. It analyzes the data of the economy. Then comes Bloomberg. Bloomberg Terminal is a computer software system provided by the financial data vendor known as Bloomberg LP that enables professionals in the financial service sector and other industries to access Bloomberg professional services through which users can monitor and analyze real-time financial market data and the place trades. So, in short, we have discussed this. Regarding the sample size, I have forgotten to say one thing, that while selecting sample, you shall have to look into consideration. From India, you cannot select 40 persons and who will represent the country like India. It should be large enough to an accurate representation of population, like MPs, like MLAs in assemblies, like corporators in municipal corporations, etc. So a large number are to be, it should be large enough to represent an accurate representation of the population. Secondly, it should be to achieve the statistically significant result. It should be so quantitative that there can be a successful statistical result analysis. Probability sampling method is also preferred for this. Then, if population is known, there is one type of sampling. If population is unknown, there is another type of sample size. That is a mathematical formula is there. You can apply that also. Different websites are there for selection of samples. For example, www.surveysystem.com, www.surveymonkey.com, then www.calculator.net. These are the areas where you can, through which you can make your sample. So with this much, I put forth my area of discussion, that is tools and techniques and the systems, etc. for research. Now I can take leave of this speech. If you have any question or doubt, you can ask me now, or you can also mail me later, to which I can give you answers. Thanks to the organizers and the participants for listening, giving me a patience hearing on these tools and techniques, because these are all used and we are coming across these type of tools and techniques which are used in research articles by different researchers, and we are publishing it in Orissa Journal of Commerce. It is a free journal, unlike Indian Journal of Commerce. You need not to be a member. You can see it, you can go through the articles, you can know, you can learn how to write research articles, etc. And probably this is 2021. In 2022, there will be a seminar by Odisha Commerce Association on research methodology, because now it is very important, and you can also join this. You can get this information in first week of January of 2022 on research methodology. Various research writers, researchers, research guides will be giving their write-ups for research methodology and research writing. If you have any query, question, you can ask to me. Because it is the time constraint is there. Another resource person is probably after me to give deliberation, and Professor Bishor may be the last person to give the deliberation. Thank you, the organizers, for giving me this opportunity to discuss with you.
Any research question from a scholar side, student side? Question? Thank you, sir, for your valuable speech. Any question? Any question? Student side?
If not now, you can write it to Professor Bishal to me, and I'll give the reply in writing.
Okay, sir, I will take just 5 minutes about the Research Forum India. Just like Research Forum India is an innovative online association, non-profit registered organization founded by a group of eminent academicians, researchers, and industry experts globally to provide an integrated value through training, empowerment, research and online training relating to academics, society, industry for research scholar, academician, corporate through complete digital platform, and adaptation of a different engineering and art method. It gives opportunity for any innovative publication and indexing in research journal, update and e-books. Forum has a different chapter state-wise to act as a research center for training, research, e-seminar, webinar, workshop, conference to the facilitate the researcher, scholars and academicians for shared views in development of regional and national research quality. It's an opportunity to be linked with the registered numbers and the educational and research institution. The entire process is managed by the advisory board and executive body. The scholar and academician are identified to be awarded each year by this forum, which is from their contribution. The Research Forum India has also innovative forum named Gyana Sabha, which provide an interactive session with a different eminent research person and scholar and students in a platform clarify the question on research. This type of forum was never before research scholar and a academician of the country, and it has come forward to minimize the gaps in research quality very dedicatedly. So every scholar and teachers present here are requested to circulate the news, the betterment of the research quality and value. But as you know, the education creates the employment creates the income generation. The income generation will reduce the poverty, and the poverty will create the socio-economic development. Thank you all speakers, particularly Professor Junak Claire Miranda, faculty, Quest International University, Ipoh Park, Malaysia. Thank you, madam, for your valuable speech. Then our future researcher and present researcher will get benefits. Then our esteemed professor, Professor Arka Kumar Das Mahapatra, Vice Chancellor, Odisha State Open University, Samalpur. Professor Arka Das Mahapatra is the Vice Chancellor, Odisha State Open University, present At present, before taking over is the Vice Chancellor, the Odisha State Open University, who was working as a Sambalpur University as a senior master professor in business administration. In the chairman and postgraduate counseling, Professor Dasamapatra has over 32 years of teaching experience and research experience, to his credit, and has over 128 research publications, various journal, international, national report, 7 books, as a producer 16 pages. Thank you, sir, for your valuable time also given for us, and our research scholar will get benefit, and present researcher and future generation researcher, future researcher, they will get also benefit for your thank you for your valuable lectures. Thank you, sir, so much. And the next speaker, Professor Molay Kumar Mahanti, keynote speaker. Sir, he is the author of the more than 7 national level books, and a present managing editor of Odisha Journal of Commerce, which is a UGC care listed journal, and working since the last decade. Uh, he has produced more than 21 research scholar. Thank you, sir, for your contribution, and have authored more than 60 research articles in the national, international journal. He was a different administrative heads like registrar from of Utkal University, Ravenshaw University, control of examination of Utkal University, and many more administrative positions. His research excellency very significant in the country due to the advisory, visionary innovation. And he also president, OCA, and a dean of the management. Thank you, sir, for your valuable speech. Our research scholar, a present researcher, and a future researcher, and a present student, they will get benefit, and from your advice, from your lectures. Thank you, 3 eminent speaker, and just my dear colleagues. Thank you, all participants, and dear students, friends, from all over the India, from my university, Northeastern Hill University, and Utkal University, Varampur University, Sambalpur University, Odisha State Open University, and Fakirmon University, and also Uttar Odisha University, Delhi University, Andhra University, Guwahati University, and all over the India, they are participating. Thank you so much for your participation and valuable uh, that is a research gain and valuable time given for us. And all research scholars, my department, other department from other university and throughout India, all over the India. Thanks. And our moderator, Naruni Akhtar from Bangladesh, and my state coordinator, Dr. Sai Prasad, and another coordinator, Chinmay Kumar Sahu. And thank you, all of you. This is our platform. I know just like the research will create that is a quality because of the research methodology. This research forum is giving platform how the quality research will create. The quality research will how to reduce our country poverty because we are the facing the economic scarcity, that is a GDP. Our growth is not growing so much after COVID-19. Last 2 years we are facing the problems. Then probably last year our GDP growth is minus because we are thinking how will GDP growth will continue increase, our per capita, our living status will increase in the future. Then our main motto is we will create the quality research, and how the quality research will create the socio-economic development for the every individual and also society. This is our motto. Thank you, all of you, all professor, all researcher, all students, all dear participants. Thank you so much. Good night. Thank you so much, all of you. That coordinator, Dr. Sai Prasad, are you speaking anything? Speak something.
On behalf of Risam from India, Andhra Pradesh, I thank all the dignitaries and a wonderful guidance from the professors. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you. Thank you, Mahapatra sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. I this is particularly to Dr. Merinda. I've just typed my email ID, and I suppose I'm audible. I've typed my email ID in case whereas Professor Biswal is there still.
Sorry, I'm looking at the
Yeah, yeah. I just,
Ah, okay, got
yeah,
it.
I
Yes,
sent
yes.
it. Yeah.
Thank
On
you,
him.
madam. Thank you for your
Thank
valuable time given, madam. Thank you, madam.
particularly for the questions that you actually raised. I know the meeting is all over. Like, your scholar can start with understanding like what makes a toxic leader, and things like how to save an organization from a toxic leader, how to prevent a toxic leader from misusing his authority and connection with the organization, how to prevent him from becoming toxic. Uh, right, and then many more. But then I'll drop a message to you. You can just send a hello so that I'll just send a message. And
Okay, sir.
thanks to everyone. Thank you, Professor Biswal. We missed you in the initial stage, but you have come up, come back very nicely. And thank you so much. My respect
Due to the
to
technical problem I'm facing.
I know it happens. The same thing can happen to anyone. And our mentor, our senior Professor Malay Kumar Mohanty is always there, back of us. You'll always be supporting, always, I know. And thank you so much. And please have a nice time. Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, good night. Good night.
Thank you, all of you.